What's going on, everybody? It's Spicy Topic. Joe Budden really redeemed himself with me. Now, I've had my issues with Joe for certain things that's happened when it came to how people judge Cardi B and they place her, pit her, whatever have you, against Nicki Minaj, who is very, very successful. Cardi's successful as well. But when it came to when these women sit in front of these men, these interviewers, these podcasters that are major in the industry, they seem to side with the one. They have less expectations for Cardi than they would for Nicki. And a lot of us don't like that. Being a black woman in America and just going through the things that we are facing right now, this momentum of time where we are in it. We are in the spigot of racism and war. This is a moment in time where history is written. Okay, so now that I got you in the mindset where I am at, I want to say that he's redeemed himself in a lot of ways with me, because he's standing up for what he believes in for the people during this time where we are protesting Black Lives Matter. He's leaving his successful podcast. Let's go ahead and get into the story, man. Joe Budden, one of Spotify's biggest exclusive podcasters, is leaving the platform. He and his show will no longer be exclusive to Spotify after September 23rd, he says in his most recent episode, while also seemingly suggesting it might not be available on Spotify at all. September 23rd, I cannot tell you where this podcast will be, he says, but as it stands, I can tell you where it will not be, and that is Spotify. He takes the announcement as an opportunity to scorch Spotify and detail his history with the company, which in the years since he signed his deal has become a sizable competitor in the podcast field. He claims his show exceeded Spotify's audience reach expectations by 900% to the point that his listeners crashed the platform. I believe that. Still, he says he never received a bonus and the company wouldn't allow him and his team to take vacation days on Christmas and New Year's Eve because that would have required them to miss 2 episodes. While the company wouldn't pay them actual bonuses, it offered to give them Rolexes instead, only to say the watches they picked out were too expensive. Then he suggested Spotify give money away to their fans for Christmas instead. The company declined. That was the first time it dawned on me that Spotify is pillaging, he says. You pillage the audience from the podcast and you've continued to pillage each step of the way without any regards for the fans. He says compared to 2 years ago when he signed to Spotify, podcasters can find better deals from multiple companies, and he suggests that Spotify's only interest in finding new popular shows rather than feeding the podcasting ecosystem. Everybody's not looking to feed the soil. Some are just looking to take the fruit, he says. He claims to be the guinea pig for Spotify's podcast ambitions because he was already established and brought audience to Spotify. He proved the model of exclusives could work for the company, he says. Spotify never cared about this podcast individually, he says. Spotify only cared about our contribution to the platform. The company wanted him to read ads and he refused, making it one of the only shows not to be monetized on the platform. Wow. He says he and Spotify differ on where podcasting is taking us for the next 5 years. Joe says, I am not going to succumb to any bad deal that is not working favorably toward the people who have created that path. Broadly, he questions the entire podcasting system and what a podcast stream is worth, especially given that musicians and record labels have already established those terms with streaming platforms. That number for podcasters still isn't standardized. In a statement to The Verge, Spotify said it wished to keep Biden on the platform. As Joe referenced on his show, we made him a considerable offer, one that was significantly larger and many times the value of the existing agreement and reflective of the current market and size of his audience. Unfortunately, we could not come to terms and we respect his wishes to find a new home for his show. All right, so in my opinion, when you corporate something, when you make something that's your love, something personal to you, because don't forget, Joe Budden took his podcast, his thing, to Spotify. Spotify offered him a position bringing his thing. Spotify didn't create Joe's podcast. He already had one. Then you're not honoring him as a human being and respecting him for his talent. Like he said, he came from music and he came from a history of the music business. So you have somebody who has to be in that world because they talented. They don't necessarily want to be a rapper, but they get to intertwine and stay in the mix of celebrities. And when you in that world and you are, with working with these people who really work for you, they're only working with you. You have your own business and you have them not honoring you, not even giving you vacation, not even giving you off on Christmas. Just the fact that you don't want to give me off on Christmas lets me know that you don't really value me, and I value me. And so I can respect Joe Budden for taking a step back. He has the talent. Matter of fact, he is the talent. After Joe Budden, left Spotify, came out that he left, he spoke out. Charlamagne, he wanted to put his 2 cents in it. And let's check out what Charlamagne to say. For those of you who don't know who he is, Charlamagne from the Breakfast Club, who I see as a sheep. He's always saying something to please the man instead of pleasing his own people or pleasing himself. It seems like to me his opinion is their opinion. And so let's check out what Charlamagne had to say about Joe Budden's stand up choice to leave because he's not getting the respect he deserves. According to Hip Hop DX, okay, Charlamagne the God challenges Joe Budden to up his negotiation game. Charlamagne the God reacted to Joe Budden's impending departure from Spotify by criticizing the rapper turned podcaster's negotiation skills. After Budden declared he was leaving the streaming service due to being undervalued, Charlamagne offered his take on the business move during an episode of The Breakfast Club. It sounds to me like Joe Budden is a person who knows his worth but doesn't know how to properly negotiate it, he said. Because if you keep doing deals with various corporations and you keep getting trash ass deals, that's on you. Things like vacation days, bonuses, all of that has to be negotiated in your contract from the beginning. Charlamagne contended the Joe Budden podcast alone wasn't comparable in worth to some of the podcasting networks signed by Spotify, noting they brought multiple shows to the streaming service. When I heard Joe comparing his show to like Spotify signing Gimlet or whatever media for hundreds of millions and The Ringer for hundreds of millions and Parcast for hundreds of millions, I think it's very important to note that they got that money from Spotify because they are actual networks with tons of IP, he explained. The networks have a bunch of shows and other content, a bunch of staff that knows how to make those shows. You can't compare your one show to a whole network. Man, this is already getting on my nerves. So this is me, right? Charlamagne, you think you know everything for one, and you all up in Joe's decisions and all up in his business. At the end of the day, whether he negotiated vacations and all of that, it's some truth to everything. He could have, negotiated, talked about it in the beginning. Who knows what their conversations was? At the end of the day, it's not like you can't talk about those things in the middle. I mean, we are human. We are a working body here. We're working together. So if I'm fulfilling what I'm supposed to do, we can't talk about it. We can't talk about Christmas or vacations. What job do you go to where you can't ask questions about vacations or taking days off? That's not even something you talked about. You know what I'm saying? Like something scheduled. You can always renegotiate. So I think Charlamagne is already coming off as a know-it-all. And he's already trying to downplay Joe's decisions. And it's a little bit disrespectful to me. It's a little bit disrespectful. I feel like Joe Budden is standing up for what he believes is right. And I will play just a very piece of what Joe was saying so you can get a hint, a touch of where he was coming from. So it says DJ Envy chimed in and insisted Budden should be paid handsomely for the popular podcast, which Charlamagne agreed with despite his criticisms. So DJ Envy, automatically you hear him, he agreed with Joe Budden. Joe Budden is doing what he feels is right, and he's standing up for whatever reason. Charlamagne, shut up. You ain't in his business, you ain't in his pockets, and you don't work. So shut up. You don't work what he do. You're not doing what he do. So you hear how Charlamagne, right, he tried to downplay what contributions Joe's brought to Spotify by basically undermining his efforts and what he's brought to the table. Oh, it's a lot of different networks that already have brands that came to Spotify. They got their own money. Yeah, well, I don't like that too much, Charlamagne, because everybody know Don't nobody know all those other podcasts. We know Joe Budden's podcast. Joe Budden has brought a lot, period. And he is worldwide known. People even mimic him. And what I like about Joe, what I'm about to play you, because I want you to feel Joe is all about the people. He continues to talk about how it's about the people, how it's about his black people, how we are, it's even a racism is even with when our worth and value at these jobs, how they work you, how they don't pay you what you deserve. And he knows his worth. He knows his value, that he deserves a lot more. And I think that's commendable. It doesn't matter what dollar, Charlamagne, because you sell out, you would sell out. You would sell out does not mean that Joe Budden will sell out. And that's the right thing to do, because it's really not. It's really coward, and it's really weak in the P word. Okay, so let's go ahead, guys, and wrap this up. But I want to show you what Joe had to say in response to Charlamagne. And thank you so much for tuning into Spicy Topics. Make sure that you leave your comments below, and please like this video if you like this video. Thank you in advance. Check out what Joe had to say to Charlamagne.